everybody. Welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
All right, it's the end of the month, which means it's time for another Bat Breakdown. And this time we are into what is kind of the final chapter in the Bat family origins. Who's to say? We're not sure, really. Nightwing Year One. We're talking about Nightwing Year One. It's the final in the trilogy from Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty, or Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon, depending on which one you're reading. And Matt, this is your boy. This is your boy. So I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one, like we do with whenever this Nightwing episode. Matt's in charge. So take it away, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this one is. This is actually the first one I ever read. So, and this, I think I read this as a trade, which is weird because I don't know. I guess it was collected, obviously, because I did it. But this was back in the time when I worked at a computer retailer, and next door to that computer retailer was a Barnes and Nobles, and I would go over there and just read all the comics.
Mm-hmm. You were one of those.
I was one of those. Yeah, It was my mid to late 20s. I was poor as all get out.
Yeah.
So I just remember I love the Nightwing series with Scott McDaniel and Chuck Dixon. So when I saw that he had come back, because Scott McDaniel left Nightwing to be on Batman about issue 40-ish. I think it's 40. He goes to do Batman, and then I think Greg Land was the guy who took over. And I just was such not a fan of whoever took over that I ended up leaving the series. Because I was like, dude, it's just not what it was. And then I'd read Batman with Scott McDaniel, blah, blah, blah. Point is that when I see that this year one has him, like, oh, this is cool. So I read it, enjoy it thoroughly. I don't think I've gone back to it since. But it's interesting to see him go back to Nightwing. And I'm not sure about timeline wise. I don't know if he was completely done on Batman by then, because I think it's like a 5-year gap. Because unlike the other year ones that we've read, Robin Year One and Batgirl Year One, this actually is released within the series.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Nightwing 101 to 106.
Yes.
So it's kind of like Batman. I want to say Batman Year 2. No, Batman Year 3.
Well, Year 2 is also released that way.
Okay, so Batman Year 3 for sure comes out as part of the series, but that's also because half of that Year 3 is current time in the past. But I honestly kind of liked it. Like I loved it back then, because it's weird to think about timelines in that, you know, at the time that Dick Grayson is becoming Nightwing, Jason Todd is Robin. So you get them interacting. You get, I think Batgirl's there a little bit, but it's mainly the two of them against Batman and Alfred and Two-Face. I really liked it. It just was weird because the other 2-year ones were Marco Martinez and another guy I can't remember. It just feels a little different, even though it is the two of them writing it. It feels different to have Scott McDaniel be doing the art. Be doing the art? What happened just now? As the artist on this.
What was that? I don't know what that was. That wasn't a sentence. Those weren't. That was all that. No, my English teacher brain, my former English teacher brain will not allow that to stand, sir. You do that again.
That is grammatically incorrect.
Absolutely not. No, I'll give you one mulligan on that one, sir.
Do you really want me to go again?
Yes, I do. And I'm leaving all this in, but you're starting over. You're starting that sentence over again, sir. Absolutely not.
Given the fact that Marco Martinez is the guy who was drawing most of Robin Year One and all of Batgirl Year One, it is odd to kind of get into this Year One feel when it's Scott McDaniel coming back. But at the same time, really cool because he hadn't been drawing Nightwing for a while. So part of his art is what got me loving Nightwing even more than I already did, because of how dynamic he did the action, which now that I think about it, I don't know that he does that Frank Miller multi-pose thing throughout this year one of Nightwing. Can you recall him doing any of that?
Not off the top of my head. No,
I know. I just kind of thought about it. I was like, no,
I could be woefully omitting something from memory, but my memory is also not what it used to be. So, Here's what I want to say about Nightwing Year One. It's not my favorite of the three. I think that's still Batgirl. I think this might actually be my least favorite of the three. That being said, I love I love it. Like it's really good. And I think it really is the art that I have the hardest time getting past. I vastly prefer the art style of Robin and Batgirl Year One to the art style of Nightwing Year One.
Okay.
And I think that from a what this book does best is the tying of loose ends
Yeah.
and the interconnecting of world threads, as it were. Like the fact that they found a way to take the OG Nightwing costume and make it in a way inspired by Dead Man,
Yeah.
especially when then years later in the Injustice books, Nightwing becomes Dead Man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So like that made my brain kind of implode a little bit when I was like, oh my God, they made that old costume not lame. Well done. I'll give them that. And also, yeah, I said it. We've had this
I know. I
conversation.
know. I know.
But also to make it also not just connected to Dead Man, but connected to his father.
Yeah.
Having Nightwing's identity be in a way connected to his parents is something I feel like we've been missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so kudos to Chuck and Scott for nailing that really well. I mean, that was probably my favorite detail they included in this entire story.
Yeah. See, and I think if memory serves, and this is where I'm going to go way wacky, and if I'm wrong, is in Nightwing Secret Files, the story of Nightwing from Krypton is told to Nightwing, if memory serves correctly,
I
and then
don't
it's
remember if it was told to Nightwing. I just
by Superman.
right. I don't I read it once. I read it once. I
Yeah.
remember the story. I don't remember if the him telling it to Nightwing was contextualized in the book, in that book. I'd have to go back and reread
Yeah.
it because
But
at this point I'm
yeah.
melding the two in my brain.
Yeah, and
I
that's
don't.
what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
think because it's a shorter thing, because
yeah,
that was what I thought was so cool about this when I read this is like that whole situation of Nightwing going to Superman and talk to him is expanded greatly. Because in that, it's just like they meet on the roof and they talk and they leave. In fact, like looking back timeline wise, it could be that they just took an excerpt out of this, threw it in that book to give it more content. Who knows?
so well, I guess I'd have to go back and look because there's not a ton of info online. There's no wiki for it.
And through the magic of editing, you missed 9 to 10 minutes of research. So,
Would
yes.
not have been that hard to figure out. Oh my God. Holy shit.
So what it is this. There is a short story that's included in Secret Files.
Okay.
This story takes place between two of the issues of Nightwing. And pardon me, what it is there's during the Nightfall situation when Nightwing goes and takes over the whole jail thing, he gets knocked out. There's a story in here where it's like a it's actually really cool, but it is basically a here is the truncated version of Nightwing's origin, Dick Grayson's origin, from becoming Batman's sidekick to becoming Nightwing and joining the Teen Titans,
Right.
and then ending up in Bloodhaven.
Mhm.
The coolest thing about it is that there is a Robin with him who is helping him remember all of these things and asking him the questions. And at the time, Jason Todd was dead. And at the end of this thing, you realize it's Jason Todd.
Okay.
But in this storyline, they give a version of Nightwing going to Superman to talk to him about what's going on, and Superman telling him the story of Nightwing, and then Superman just leaves, and that's when he gets the name Nightwing. But it's of this 20-15 page story, it's maybe 3 pages. It's
Yeah.
basically Nightwing on the roof, him and Superman talk. Superman says, "Oh, this."
Okay.
And then he
Okay.
leaves.
Okay. Okay. Here's why I'm confused. Here's why I got so goddamn confused.
Got it.
I thought you were asking what issue, like, there's another comic book where you actually see the adventures of the Kryptonian Nightwing.
Okay.
So when you were
Yes.
talking about Secret Files and the story being told to Nightwing, I thought you were talking about this old fucking Nightwing from Krypton book.
Yes, I got
So
you
that's
now.
why when I was asking what fucking issue are you talking about, I was like, we are not talking about the same thing.
No, we were
Okay.
not.
That's why I was so confused. We were not talking about the same thing at all. I thought you were saying that Superman telling Nightwing about this was from that old
Yeah.
shit Superman comic, and I was like, I don't think you're right about that, dude.
Give me some credit. Give me some credit.
Ooh, that's a stretch even for you, bud. Okay,
Yeah.
that's why I was so confused.
All
Okay,
right.
wow,
Are we on the same page? You want me to start over
we're on
with
the
the
same
recap?
page. I'm leaving all that in.
Okay.
If there's one thing that the folks on this show should know or will get to know, I leave my egg on my face moments in the show.
And you should definitely leave mine in because I could be an idiot a lot of
Anyway,
the times. So
anyway,
all that to say, what I remember reading that story about how
okay, yes.
Superman read, basically is like, hey, there's a superhero named Nightwing. That's what you call yourself. And seeing the expanded version of that in this, I always thought was really cool because there's like some of the other year ones that Chuck Beatty. That's what we're gonna call him, Chuck Beatty and and Scott Dixon did.
I know why you said that.
um, but the way that they did that, there's a lot of times where it's not retreading, but it's information stories that they're pulling from to create these year ones. So like Robin year one, there's a lot of that information that's in other comics or little versions of that are around that gives this a really cool year one. So I really like that in this one because I think in this, instead of 3 pages, you have an entire issue of Dick Grayson visiting um, Clark Kent / Superman and them really having a conversation about everything.
And in 3, 2, 1.
Now, I know you famously, and I say famously to the 5 people who listen to us, do not like Damian Wayne Robin. How do you
Not even a little bit.
Yeah. How do you feel about Jason Todd?
Jason Todd is a Robin I haven't spent a lot of time with because when I was coming up into comics and Batman culture, it was Dick Grayson on the animated series, and then it was Tim Drake,
Yeah.
the animated series. And then when I started actually getting, the few comics I was reading at that time, one of them was at the time the ongoing Tim Drake series, which famously to our fives of listeners, I wasn't the hugest fan of. It was a little dull. It was mostly just a lot of Tim Drake sitting in the car with spoiler drinking smoothies,
Yeah. Yeah.
bitching about his dad. So Jason Todd, I wasn't aware of really until later than most Batman fans, just because of the age I was and the exposure to Batman lore I was getting. So I was a little bit late to the exposure on Jason Todd. I think it may have been Under the Red Hood was honestly my exposure to Jason. Like I knew there was another Robin, but I hadn't like read any of his stuff. I knew there was a Robin that I hadn't read a lot of, so I didn't have much to go on. In the time since I've read up on Jason Todd, I prefer him as Red Hood than Robin.
Yeah.
Because some of the things that irk me about Damian Wayne are also evident in Jason Todd, which is a lot of those personality traits where it's like, which is part of the reason why I don't have kids is like every once in a while you have those kids that are just dicks.
Yeah.
And Jason Todd's one of those. You know,
Yeah.
when he's older and when he's an adult, it's more tolerable because like he's been through some shit. And I understand that like Jason Todd is like, you know, he's a kid who's been living on the street and all that, but like he's just such a dick. You know what I mean? Like he's also like and I think Robin Year One kind of really puts a point on that. Is like he's definitely a victim of Batman's mistakes in that he got picked to be a Robin for the wrong reasons. He was the rebound Robin. And I'm dead serious. Like Bruce picked him to be Robin. I think mostly because he thought he was doing the right thing, but also in a way he was trying to fill the void.
Yeah.
And Nightwing Year One really drives that home. If anything, Nightwing Year One helps to make Jason Todd's story a little more tragic when you realize, like, no, Jason, like all those times of Jason. So when you think to Robin to Under the Red Hood, and or even in like Arkham Knight when they do the Red Hood storyline in the video game, which I know you haven't played, but when they get into the whole like they really get into Jason asking Bruce like, how long did you wait before you replaced me with Tim? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it really drives home the idea of no, like Bruce, like Jason was a homeless kid. Bruce gave him a home.
Yeah.
And it really kind of, you know, it paints the picture of like this, like Batman really built up this kid's dreams for the wrong reasons. And it makes Jason Todd's story really just that much more tragic. You know, now I will say what I have read of, and I know we're not really talking as much about Nightwing Year One, but what I have read of Jason Todd, I have liked like the Cult. I really like the Cult. He's not in it much, and that's older Jason Todd.
Yeah.
You know, the relationship was much different by that point. Like, you know, but by the time Jason Todd dies, like the relationship with him and Bruce is much better. But that is a long answer to your response because my feelings on Jason Todd are a little mixed. They're a little complicated because of my history with the character.
Yeah. See, and I've never liked him, but at the same time, like he makes a very interesting foil for Nightwing in this book. I love their interaction. I love this kind of like him treating Nightwing like, no, I'm the better version. No, he picked the better guy this time. Oh, I can handle this. And then, you know, of course, he messes things up sometimes. And Nightwing's like, bro, you got to be better.
You know what he reminds me of is it gives me very strong, you know, vibes of that fight we see in Son of Batman with Nightwing taking on Damian. But it really gives me reminiscence of it really makes me think about when you say him as a foil for Nightwing. It makes me think about him as he becomes Red Hood. They really are like the best and worst of like when you look at like them as the sons of Batman, they are the two that are really just like they are night and day of each other. They are so so similar,
Yeah.
so cut from the same cloth, so two sides of the same coin. You know what I mean? But one is just the darker version of the other.
Well, and it's interesting too because when you go back to this time frame in comics, like Nightwing's not around. So it's not
Yeah,
like when like him and Tim Drake become brothers, him and Damian are sidekick in Batman. He has very little to do with Jason Todd.
yeah,
So it's just one of those times where I'm like, yeah, there's a reason why they would have just a kind of a distant cousins relationship more than
yeah.
brothers.
Even his relationship with Tim is more like mentor and mentee. You
A
know,
little bit, like
like
it's
like team leader subordinate. Then it's like, yeah, like we know each other, we're related, but you know,
well, some of
nothing.
that gets rewritten with the different reboots. Like back in the Nightwing, the
Yeah,
90s or the Nightwing series, there's a lot of like them just being really close and being cool and talking about stuff. But that's
yeah.
all lost to whatever Tim Drake is.
It's all lost to the Tim Drake erasure of the DC universe. Again, I know I said that run wasn't my favorite, but that doesn't mean we need to wipe him out of existence. Good lord. Good night, man. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Back to Nightwing year one though.
Yeah, Nightwing Year One. I love that whole like kind of pseudo passing the torch.
Yeah,
Um, the whole idea of like he's trying to kind of test Jason Todd, and then Jason Todd mistakes the test that it's him going against Nightwing, and then they have to
yeah.
team up to because the test goes wrong, and they have to go like, oh,
Boy,
the
does it.
yeah, the gauntlet exploded, so now we have to put it back together. I really enjoyed and thought it was really cool. I think it's a really eh, not as bad as Batgirl and Robin, but I think the problem with this particular one is that so much of it is now gone to reboots.
Yeah, it really is.
Like,
Nightwing the story gets,
does any of this
yeah, man.
pseudo canon because you've changed Jason Todd's thing, you changed a lot of some of the Nightwing stuff, and that's again, like the Robin thing, I think still is viable. The Batgirl
Mhm.
thing still is viable. This one gets into like I don't even know if Jason Todd was ever Robin now. Like,
Well, but then there's also the idea of like Boston Brand being sent by Batman to check in on Robin all this time, on Dick after all this time. I don't know. That was the only part where it was like I liked Boston Brand being a part of the story with Dick over at the circus.
yeah,
I don't know if I needed him being Bruce's eavesdropping errand boy.
yeah,
I get they were trying to show ways that Batman was keeping tabs
yeah.
on him to show that he missed him basically. Don't know if that was the way I would have done it. I don't know how I would have done it differently. I just know I didn't like the way that tasted in my mouth. I was like, I didn't hate it, but I was like,
I like what
it felt cheap, a
yeah,
little cheap.
the fact that you're not frightened by me is kind of scary.
Yeah, no, yeah. I always love more Boston Brand. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. And Batman interacting with the supernatural side of DC is never a bad thing, especially when he hates it. But
Mm.
I know it's my eye. If there was a way to make that a functioning text tone that I would actually ever hear at any given point, I would.
Yeah,
But there's no way to do that. It's
yeah.
so funny to me every time.
But no,
Uh,
I like this one a lot. Like it's being a huge fan of Nightwing. Anytime you give me some more Nightwing goodness, again, expanding it from that short and Secret Files, giving me a little bit more of how did Nightwing react. I think there's a lot of cool stuff here that had not been covered because before this in the original comics, like Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing and he goes off the Teen Titans and Jason Todd becomes Robin. And like I literally don't think they come together at all until he's dead. Like
mhm.
I don't believe that Nightwing ever goes back to Gotham and hangs out with Jason Todd or has much to do with him at all because he's fully with the Teen Titans, hanging out with Flash and Arsenal and all of those guys more often in space and doing things like that. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see, like, okay, there was moments where they interacted beyond,
Right.
Red
But they
Hood
weren't
stuff.
extended periods of time. Like this was like, especially this, you could tell this is very much going to be like, this is probably the last time he's in Gotham for a while.
Yeah.
Like the next time he probably comes back to Gotham is probably the last Arkham.
Yeah.
If we're being realistic, it's probably the last Arkham.
Year three.
Year three. Yeah. Year three.
That's what I'm saying. He comes back after Jason Todd's dead because he's
right.
not in Death in the Family.
You're 100% right. Yep.
So
yeah. But one thing I also want to, another thing I wanted to talk about was, because we mentioned this when we talked about Dark Victory. One of our criticisms of Dark Victory, and I stand by that criticism, is the fact that like Dick Grayson doesn't put on the Robin costume till like the last issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson doesn't really put on the Nightwing costume until the end of this story. But I didn't feel as cheated with this one.
He's wearing he's wearing the base of it for most of it, and then Batman creates what he eventually becomes the Nightwing look.
You think that's what it is? Because like I understand it was I think it was both.
It's not clear.
It's not super clear. I mean, I think it's implied that they both had a hand in it. You'll have to I'd have to read the note. I don't remember what the note said word for word, but I think that probably does help. But and that's not a criticism. That's just kind of it's interesting that I had less of an, but I also think because I don't know. I guess because we knew this was going to be like the origin build up to it, whereas with Dark Victory, it's just kind of on the cover.
Yeah.
That like, hey, this is Robin. Robin's in this. You guys ready to see Robin? And I think it was because it was like halfway into the book before Dick Grayson's even introduced that it felt a little, I don't know. This is not meant to be a retread of Dark Victory, but I was surprised with just again to kind of go back to with how they were able to tie just kind of everything. Like,
yeah,
I'm always very impressed when writers take the time to, like, how do I put this? Remember where they came from, basically. Yeah. Like, hey guys, like when they give a shit about continuity is what I guess it is. It's like, because I know we like to make fun of nerds who get really into the continuity and all that, but like continuity is what makes good storytelling. Like at the end of the day, like if continuity is what makes a good book work, what makes a good movie work, it makes anything work. So I love that with this one, neither Chuck nor Scott seemed to really like try to reinvent the wheel. It was like, let's not try and do anything necessarily new. Let's just look at let's go back in time, look at where things were at in DC right here and see what breadcrumbs we can leave, like introducing Waylon Jones for the first time. Because I had to do a mental somersault the first time I saw that. I was like, what do you mean everybody knows the Killer Croc? Wait, nope. This is flashback. It's a flashback. Nope. Had to remember for a second. But then that was kind of like, oh, that's fun. Oh, that's a neat way of having him. Because we also saw him show up in Dark Victory.
Yeah.
Which was, so that's twice now we've seen a pre supervillain Killer Croc Waylon Jones pop up. And why does this keep happening? Well, again, this comes out just a few years after Dark Victory, so the overlap is so yeah, that actually cool. I'm talking myself into it making sense. I'm really good at this, Matt. I'm really good at content creating.
Hey man, you're great, buddy. I'm here with you. Hey, at least you can speak English properly.
Yeah,
and question. It was Alfred. Alfred creates the suit.
Alfred creates the suit. Gotcha. I guess, but again, and we've talked about the most recent run of Nightwing ad nauseum and how much we love Alfred's relationship with Dick Grayson, and we've praised it with Robin year one, and I praise it again. We saw a little bit of it in Batgirl year one, and I loved it seeing it in this one too. The fact that Alfred basically makes him the Earth 2 suit. Was it Earth 2? Was it the Earth 2 suit, or was it a different one?
I think it's Earth 2.
I think it's Earth 2.
Yeah.
The one that we see him wear in Batman Brave and the Bold when he's off doing his own thing with the yellow tights. We see that he's going to give him a new suit, an upgraded suit, and then that's the night that Bruce fires him. Goes postal, locks down the Batcave. Alfred has to take an axe to the grandfather clock because he thinks something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I love that. And again, you just looked at it, but it's implied, or is it straight out said that they used part of the old suit to make?
I'm implying that because that's what he's wearing the whole time, and then at the end,
I'm assuming
Alfred just gives him the suit.
I'm assuming that they repurposed the material from the old suit, to make at least the yellow part. Well,
I just meant more it's like the suit he's wearing throughout this storyline.
Oh no,
Alfred just colors it.
Oh no, I was talking about. I thought maybe they used like the yellow from that Earth 2 suit.
I don't know about that, but it's possible.
I thought maybe maybe I Mandela affected it, but I thought I was remembering something from the note of him saying like, "Oh, we used pieces from the old suit that I got you." I don't remember. Maybe I was remembering that wrong.
I can read the note if you want me to.
No, it's fine. I believe you. Let's talk a little bit about. We get a brief bit of time with Dick and Barbara in this. Not a lot, but some. We see the role that she played in in this version of the Gauntlet, and Barbara's hands are not clean. She is not clean. There was some gaslighting going on that, if we're being completely honest, Dick Grayson didn't deserve a lot of the way he was treated. If anything, Dick Grayson didn't deserve any of the way he was treated throughout any of this.
I don't think so, but I think it also, that's when you get into that, like, hey man, you left town. This is what's going to happen.
No, I understand.
You bolted, but yeah, it's.
But Barbara, and I think this is also, again, I'm having to remember that this is younger Batgirl when so she was still kind of, I think, more willing to do what Batman said. You know what I mean? So I think her willingness to be a part of that, as opposed to, this is not the Barbara Gordon that's going to tell Bruce to shove it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is not Oracle who's learned the lesson of going along blindly with what Bruce wants to do. This is Barbara that needs to learn that lesson.
So, I mean, wrapping it all up, I know we've gone on some crazy little trails. I really do like this. Yeah. I'm again, it's Nightwing. I always have fun with Nightwing, but I think there's some really cool stuff here. I think that you really get to see the beginnings of these characters, because again, like, this is the first time Jason Todd is Robin. You see Batgirl almost kind of starting to show where her loyalties really lie in this storyline, pre getting shot and the Oracle thing. And then you see Nightwing to that point of like this is that to kind of get into my recent this is the guy who graduated from Bat School and is going off on his own. Like, as fun as it is to be here, I'm that age. It's time for me to go do my life thing. And I really like the way that you see that transition here, as much as it's kind of crap how it originally starts. The fact that it ends with like, no, this is now Dick Grayson getting to be his own superhero, Jason Todd being his own Robin, and just this knowing, especially because it's a prequel-ish story, that the adventure these guys go on is incredible. So
yeah. And it also it's so interesting to me that they made the decision to, there was an opportunity to have Bruce Wayne, to have Batman firing Robin be like, he needs to go do things on his own. Like, he's He's, like when Robin tells him, I was with the Titans, we were doing this thing, we had to say we saved a lot of people, it was a huge deal. Like as Dick Grayson leaves, like he could have told Alfred, like, he's destined for bigger things than this. He needs to go do those bigger things. He can't be leaving those bigger things to come back here. That would have been the easy way to take that, I think. But you don't get 6 issues out of that. No. You don't get Batman passively aggressively hiring Jason Todd as a rebound. If he's doing it for Dick Grayson's own good. So it was a lot of fun really exploring the psychology and the issues that these two men have with each other deep down.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. It has nothing to do with the quality of the story, but just more of a curiosity of like, do you prefer this version or the version that's told in Batman the Animated Series, where Dick Grayson finally one day is like, nope, I'm done here, pops him in the mouth, and then just leaves, and you don't see him for a year and a half until he returns as Nightwing?
There's a happy medium between the two that I think works best, because I always love the idea of Batman pushing the Bat family to tell him to go fuck himself. And I realize that's a weird thing to say on a show that's literally named after Batman, but what I mean by that is I like my Batman flawed. I like it when my Batman has to learn a lesson, and I like it when he has to learn that lesson the hard way.
Fair.
Like it's like Jason Todd dying is tragic, but in a way that probably helps Batman realize just how much Jason really meant to him, even though he hired him passive aggressively, And so I like the idea of Dick Grayson just cold cocking him on the chin, because he's like, I'm tired of the games. I really am. But I also like the idea. I also like getting to see Batman be kind of passive aggressive. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a happy medium in there somewhere that would really just sing for me. But I think either way you win. The one that I don't particularly like, and I say this as a fan of the show, is the way Batman Brave and the Bold did it.
Yeah.
I got they were just going for different and kid friendly, so there's only as far as you can take that. But it didn't work for me. It was a neat idea, but it didn't work. But of the two, I think it's kind of dealer's choice. You don't miss out either way. Either way, you get compelling storytelling.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, man.
Well, everybody, let us know what you think of Batman Year Run by
of
Batman what? Year One?
Batman Year Run? Matthew Hasso.
I have been sober for several days in a row, and it's freaking me out. All right. Well, let him
stop. Hey, so guys, that's going to do it for this episode of We Are the Batman. If you guys want to follow along with the show, follow us on all social media at WATB Pod, Instagram and Facebook. You can also follow me on social media at Mr. Mike Shea.
You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja.
And the funny thing is, Matt, we've had so much fun talking about all of these year ones written by Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty. We've really got to I really want to get inside the head of these guys. I want to know more about what their process was. I think we should just ask Scott Beatty. What do you think?
Can we do that? You'll find out next week.
You will find out next week, because that's exactly what we did. We got to have a conversation with Scott Beatty, one of the writers behind Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing Year One. We recorded this a couple weeks ago. We are so excited to share it with you guys. That will be our first episode of the month of September, a full conversation with Scott. When I tell you guys, it was one of my favorite days. My face hurt from smiling. So please make sure you guys tune in next week. You won't want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And with that being said, that'll do it for this. We'll see you guys again next time. Same bat time, same bat podcast channel.
Bye-bye.